Dr. Kwabna Chum Nyama is a member of parliament for Brekum East in the Bonafo region. He's joined me this morning. If we're lucky, we'll be joined by Mr. Al Hassan Swahilu Dandawa. He's a member of parliament for Karaga. Now, yesterday, the minority, they convened a press conference blaming government for all the troubles in Ghana. Why?
Well, I'll first of all say thank you for having me, and then good morning to your lovely viewers. I guess we brought to the fore the problems that the economy is facing, which I think every Ghanaian is really aware, and we try to let Ghanaians know, should I say, the true state of our economy, and also give out certain recommendations that, in our opinion, if government is able to implement, will help us to abate the deterioration that is really happening within the economy. So, I mean, it is a shared responsibility. We are all Ghanaians. If we succeed together. But at any point in time, there are leadership, and if there are challenges or we have any problem, the leadership is supposed to be responsible and they take actions to correct the challenges, and not to always be explaining, describing the challenges to us, so to speak. So we try to draw the government's attention to the fact that things are not getting better, things are getting worse by the day, and the earlier, we take a different action, the better it will be for all Ghanaians.
Yesterday, the president met some Muslim leaders, and the chief imam was topmost among them, Nuhu Shado Butu. Now, he was very explicit, very concise, said, well, a lot more efforts are being made to make sure that the economy turns around as far as the good fortunes are concerned. And so these strategies will help in improving the current state of the economy. Is it that you don't have confidence in what is being done by the state?
Roland, we all hope that we could have agreed to what the president said yesterday. He has been saying this since the beginning of the year. Remember, the famous 2014 is going to be a good year, and even I think some pastors even bought into it. But since the year started, nothing has worked for us. Our CD has lost value at the fastest rate in a recent history. And you just mentioned, the outlook that Fitch is giving, the fact that if you are not careful, we're going to get, for the third year running, a double deficit in a year. And we are in June. The president still reiterated that he still insisting that 2014 will be a turnaround year. We need to see certain actions. You can't just say it and then it will happen. We must see certain pragmatic steps. There should be signs indicating that things will turn around. And it looks like day in, day out, things are worsening. The Bank of Ghana brought these measures to try and, arrest the CD's depreciation. But you and I are aware we are not seeing much. The CD is now hovering over 3 CDs to $1, and we are not seeing breaks in making the value of the CD.
Well, some critics will say, for the minority, it bodes well for you if you constantly criticize government for the current situation in which we are, when rather the citizenry need a lot more hope and some relative sense of appreciation and urgency.
I think Ghana is for all of us. The minority is also, we also live in Ghana. If things get better, we're all going to benefit. When things are worse, as we are seeing now, everybody will suffer. But you see, you can only give hope to your people based on certain concrete steps. And this is where we have a challenge with the government. It is better to, encourage your citizenry that things will get better. But I believe at a certain point, if they don't see these changes, they may begin to wonder whether we are taking them seriously, and there'll be a lot of cynicism in the air, to the extent that even sometimes when you are telling the truth, they may still be thinking you are playing to a gallery. People may say these are political talks. There should be an end to this. There should be honesty and fairness with the people of Ghana. If things are not getting better, Ghanaians must be told. Well, after all, we are in the boat together.
Your colleague, Dr. Is it Osasibe?
Yes.
Okay. He said the government needed to be very sincere and tell Ghanaians what the current state of the economy is. Well, that's way far from the truth, because really the citizenry, they've constantly been told that there are increasing challenges facing the economy, and that these challenges are being addressed. Is it for perhaps political misgivings that you would want the president
obviously, what we are seeing is not just a challenge. It's a crisis situation. And, I mean, being a doctor, you can only treat a condition perfectly if you diagnose it well. So if, for instance, you have somebody is in coma, and then you diagnose him to have a clouded sensory, or maybe he's just having some delirium or something, you may give different treatment. So if you are in a crisis mood and then you say we are having challenges, I think having challenges are milder than having a crisis situation. So when you let your people know that where we are now is not, they are no good times, they are different from the usual, then if maybe you want to implement any harsh measures, your people will go along with you. And then it will let the business community out there feel that this government is on top of the issue. Then it will engender confidence in whatever steps you are taking. Yesterday, you mentioned about the meeting between the president and the Muslim chiefs. I think the highlight of the reasonings was that we had a reduction in our export earnings because of the slump in the price of gold and cocoa. And that was more or less, according to the president, the main reasons why we are having the problem we are having now. But you and I know that is not it is not the entire issue. There are other issues that we need to really work out with. So if we are getting this mindset from the president, then it goes to explain as to why they are not really doing much to address the other issues. We believe when we address them will rather help to solve the problem faster than we are getting now. We are going into a third year, as I said earlier, of having twin deficit, fiscal and also current account. And I don't think any economy in the world will be able to go to the day you will still engender confidence for the
So you acknowledge there are difficulties, you call them crisis.
Yes.
We're in a crisis situation.
Yes.
And the Century Consensus was supposed to have addressed some of these preambles that were also outlined and also proposed there. Now, your party, your side of the house also did not participate. And then you come to organize another press conference and say you are proposing solutions as well. How does it work? You have an avenue. You don't go make those propositions. Now, you create another platform or forum to advise government.
First of all, I will say I think the reasons why the minority and for that my MP did not go to Senchi, we've espoused them. I
know you don't have to
yes.
go. You don't have to go.
And Senchi is not, should I say, the only platform where people can offer solutions. In fact, per our constitution, the government is not even duty bound to implement whatever happens at Senchi, because that is not where policy is made. He can decide to use them. Parliament, where we discuss budgets, we debates and all that. We've always been espousing our views. We've had more than 13 press conferences on the economy and other areas which the government could use. At the end of the day, the decisions will be made by the government, the executive. They have the mandate from the people to take decisions to influence our economic status. So I believe we still have the duty to Ghanaians and to everybody to always speak to ensure that the right things are done for the people. But the final decision will be made by the government. We are only going to proffer solutions, suggestions, and they can decide to use them or not. But I believe the good people of Ghana will be the judges to see whether their welfare are being, handled properly or not by the people they entrusted, the power to rule the country into.
Do you believe that there's political polarity in Ghana?
Well, I guess it's all over the place. Whatever you say, sometime before somebody may even make a sense out of any suggestion you give, he may want to find out where you are coming from. And I think instead of really analyzing the import of your suggestion, we rather want to see.
So you think that your suggestions over the last couple of months have been misconstrued, and government has not taken it painstakingly to make sure that
to a large extent
it heeds to those advice?
To a large extent, you that is what has happened. It's unfortunate that most of the issues that Dr. Bawumia, for instance, spoke about were, rubbish, so to speak. But Professor Abuchi spoke, he agreed to a lot of them. And I believe once he agreed to them, now you found people on the government side agreeing to some of the things. So the question you ask is it the vehicle of the message that matters or the message? So it means that if something is said by Dr. Bawumia, it will not be taken.
So
but once they say
the message is
from
critical.
Professor, seriously, that is all that we're looking for. It is the message that will, bring about a positive change into the lives of Ghanaians. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Once we see that the message is going to help us to, move forward, we need to take it and not really bother ourselves about whoever is delivering the message. I believe every Ghanaian will benefit once the economy improves. It doesn't matter who is in power, who decides whatever actions. All that Ghanaians are looking for, I believe, is to improve their lives. And I think that is all governance is supposed to be for. All that all of us are, craving for should be to the extent of improving the lives of Ghanaians. And that's all.
This year, the last two financial periods of the financial year, quarters of the financial year, we've had the IMF consistently say that we needed to embark on some measures of austerity, so to speak, cut our quota according to our size. Do you think that perhaps government has not heeded to them?
To a large extent, that has been to me.
How do you draw that conclusion?
Because you have a budget and then you get some of the expenditure really deviating from the budget in very substantial amounts. Professor Uche even alluded to it. Budgets cannot be, met, 100%. But when it happens that you exceed your budget more than 300%, then obviously you are spending more than you are generating, and you are not even bothering yourself about your books. And when you do that, you always be found wanting one day, because you can never run away from these realities. So I think we should have been doing this over the years. The recklessness with which we spent our monies in 2012 and last year is catching up with us. And I mean, the advice from IMF is something that should have been obvious to us. You can't eat your cake and have it. Once you spend more than you are, generating, eventually you go bankrupt. And unfortunately, that is where we are heading to if we don't change, and amend our ways. And this what is, forcing the government. He's in a desperate move to virtually tax everything, not really minding the effects of these taxes.
You say he, who, that pronoun you use, who are you referring to? Is it the president, or you're using it as a generic as government?
Generic government. Okay. Obviously, he is the boss. So, but obviously, I will just say the government.
Okay. Now, in going forward, there needs to be some level of consensus building. If you're not with government and you feel government is also not with you, then that very consensus will not be built or generated or achieved.
Yes, I mean, in times like these where we are having these serious challenges, I think the least we can all do to ourselves and to Ghanaians is to have a common ground to really discuss issues so that we can be able to take some of these difficult decisions that we need to take. So I guess the onus will rest on the government to have an open heart to really receive all manner of suggestions. He's not duty bound to implement all, but they should be treated with respect. People must have the feel that they are part of the decision-making process, so that whatever steps are taken, they all buy into them and assist into making sure that we get some, improvement. But when we have these situations where suggestions are given by people and then they are treated with disdain, it doesn't matter where they are coming from. People may not want to really be part of the whole decision-making process. So it was, Senchi spoke about that, but this has been something that has been ongoing. Everybody is always expecting that there should be this common ground where we can have certain areas that we
So you feel that Senchi is not the grounds for building consensus? But your side of the house again...
It's still it's a step in the right direction. It's unfortunate we were not able to be there, but it doesn't mean that is the end of the road. There's supposed to be an implementation team set up. I think yesterday it was supposed to be up. There was a document to be up in 2 weeks. It hasn't come. I'm not sure Senchi was going to be the end. It should more or less create the platform for us to be doing further
You seem very pessimistic. You and your side of the house seem to be very pessimistic about the efforts by government to address some of these challenges.
Yes.
But in saying that, the minority, you have also raised concerns about government abuse of expenditure as far as whatever is in what we call the Petroleum Stabilization Fund.
Yes.
You're accusing government of having spent in excess $176 million without prior approval from Parliament, something that actually government also shouldn't do at all.
Yes, you see, Parliament is supposed to oversight the executive, and one of our main duties is supposed to ensure that the people's money are used within the confines of the law. And there's a Petroleum Revenue Act that's supposed to govern how the petroleum revenue is utilized. And so, in the budget every year, government is supposed to bring a cap in the stabilization fund, and this in the 2014 budget it was $250 million. So when you exceed that amount, Parliament is supposed to give approval as to what the excess is going to be utilized. In the budget, the government indicated it was going to set up a contingency fund of 50 million Ghana cedis after the cap has been exceeded. And so when the contingency fund is done, we expect that to really ensure transparency and, involve the people through their reps in using their funds. Government should have come to Parliament for us to give more or less a concern as to what should be done with the excess. That's where we are. So
really you think that's an abuse of the regulation in
itself?
Yes,
and it goes to really feed into this person. The government, even though we've approved statutory funds payment for close to a year.
So you're saying these are still over expenditures?
Not necessarily, but misapplication, non-prioritization. Yes, because these areas are very strategic areas where, it will help to improve the fortunes of the people of Ghana. So we expect that the government will really respect the law and do the payments as and when they are supposed to be done.
Since you raised that also, do you know what the government spends the amount on, the sum on?
We've been told that it was used on debt servicing. That is even where it comes in. To what extent are you going to use? Do you want to use all our funds in servicing debts, and then what is going to be left for these critical areas, health, common fund, get fund, or in arrears? So that's where you need to engage the people's reps, and then we can have an agreement as to how the funds should be utilized. It shouldn't just be, a unilateral decision from the government. There should always be. That's why we have checks and balances in the system to try and prevent abuse in the system. And this is where we are saying that the government must come clean. Parliament should be engaged in some of these decision makings.
Well, thank you very much. Member of Parliament for Brekum East, Dr. Kwabena Chum Nyama, thanks for joining me this morning and elaborating on that very press conference that was convened on Monday by the minority that, well, they had concerns with some expenditures the government had made from the Petroleum Stabilization Fund, and also difficulties you're having with the way government was managing the current state of the economy as far as those efforts to resuscitate those vital sectors of the economy. We would have to deal with something on the environment and agriculture. We have an advocate, an intellectual, and somebody who is well versed on the subject of not only GMOs, which more recently have become a subject of debate here in Ghana, but also the subject of how we can equitably distribute the resources of agriculture and make sure those that engage in it get the right value for money. Dr. Vandana Shiva is an Indian environmentalist. She will be joining me in the studio. She arrived just last night in Ghana, and we're privileged to have her in the studio. We'll start the discussions on the environment, the subject of genetic modified food, and also how we can make sure that the best practices are maintained in our state of the economy and also Ghana. We're taking a break. We'll be right back.